Greetings, Patriots, and welcome back to the Albert Plan YouTube channel. You know, I make little short introductions on these videos, and it's humorous to see how often I just shut down that record button. I just press this red button here to turn this camera off because I just, a blooper happens. And so sometimes I'm really smiling big when I turn the camera back on because I've tried several times and it just keeps shutting down. So in this video, and did I mention my name is Dan Albert? I don't remember. I wrote the Albert Plan to Save America 2020 edition. And we the people have to rally around a plan to restore our republic to what our founders intended. And election integrity is a serious problem. And I have a question. On this video, I want to ask the question, what could possibly go wrong with millions of unsolicited ballots being mailed out to voters? What could possibly go wrong with that scenario? And on top of that, introduce a drop box for ballots to be dropped off. So here we are with an election process that really lacks integrity throughout the last couple of decades. It's gotten worse and worse as Democrats have used activist judges to do their bidding and to undermine election integrity. I haven't looked at the Voter Rights Act. I think it was 1965. But it sure seems to me that they're using that or something else to seriously undermine the integrity of our elections. And if we don't have election integrity, then we just don't have government by the consent of the governed. And, we set ourselves up for basically a civil war. If we can't restore election integrity, we become a banana republic, and that's a very scary scenario. So all Americans should be in favor of restoring election integrity. So we have a situation where governors or whoever was in charge of making these decisions in various states deciding to mail out millions of unsolicited ballots, and they're based on voter rolls that have been inflated by people that are no longer living in addresses of record, people that maybe are no longer living at all, and so all these ballots go out. And in the primary season in some of these Democrat jurisdictions, there was absolute chaos with this process. So when you mail out all those ballots and people are receiving ballots in an address where they live to people that don't live there, how many people are going to resist the temptation to go ahead and fill out that ballot and mail it back in? And is our postal service, is there enough integrity within our postal service to avoid having postal workers throw away ballots, or incoming ballots they toss, or ballots that have been put in return mail, those get tossed? Do jurisdictions put any kind of code on the ballot, whether it's the outgoing ballot that's being mailed back to the Elections Commission or wherever they mail ballots to? Is there a code on that envelope that indicates whether a Republican is submitting their ballot or a Democrat? Could that happen? These ballot drop-off boxes, could those be tampered with? Could ballots disappear? We've already heard lots of reports of ballots being found in ditches and in trash cans. And in the primaries, thousands and thousands of ballots were disqualified for various reasons. So yeah, there should be a lot of disqualified ballots if there are 350 counties that have more registered voters than there are citizens of voting age living in those jurisdictions, in those counties, and then they mail ballots to all of them. What could possibly go wrong? So we have to restore election integrity by having elections happen on the day of election and just forget about mailing ballots in that are unsolicited. Of course, when somebody receives a ballot in the mail that they've requested as an absentee ballot, that's a slightly better process, but there's still big problems with that. So we have a case here where at this time in the 2020 election cycle, there are all kinds of shenanigans happening, and in the confirmation hearings in the Senate Judiciary Committee, one thing I learned is that there's something called in stare decisis, there's a principle of reliance, and that weighs in heavily on the decisions of judges on cases. And we the people have been relying on election integrity and this mailing of ballots, unsolicited ballots to millions of supposed, alleged registered voters. That completely undermines the whole process. That's a game changer. So I think Democrats know that would not fly if we have 9 justices on the Supreme Court with 5 or 6 of those justices allegedly supporting the Constitution as originalists or close to that. You know, Democrats believe in a living Constitution. They can just twist any way they want, and activist judges are doing that right and left. So when the hearings were going on last week, it became obvious that there's a lot of angst over several things with the Democrats. The replacing of notorious RBG with glorious ACB is a huge concern for them, because that's a huge change from far left to far right in terms of the way that both of these ladies interpret the Constitution and approach interpreting the Constitution. And we the people should insist on justices that look at the original meaning, that they're originalists and textualists, to be able to properly judge. And here I am, I've drifted way off the idea of mailing ballots. So to say all of that, the efforts of the Democrats on the committee to cast doubt over the ability of Amy Coney Barrett, if confirmed, to properly handle cases before the court related to the 2020 election. That was a major drive that the Democrats had last week. So obviously I've placed this video in the context of time with the Amy Coney Barrett confirmation hearing. Presently it's 2 weeks and a day from the, you know what? Is today Monday or Tuesday? Time flies when you're having fun. And I just gained a day back, so I thought it was Tuesday. So here we go, 15 days from the election, and there's all kinds of stuff going on that is just, it boggles the mind. The attack on our election integrity that's happening, the Chinese ownership of certain candidates and certain industries, it is really scary. We're losing our republic in so many ways. So we've got to wake up, folks, and we have to mobilize. We have to organize around this plan that I've proposed, or one of similar magnitude and direction. I don't expect people to watch this video in time to do anything about this 2020 election, but our nation is in distress. That's why on the cover of the 2017 edition, I had the flag upside down, the cover of the book, and the 2020 edition, the flag is in the shape of the United States. And that flag upside down is a distress signal. Our nation's in distress. The biggest concern we have, the greatest clear and present danger we face is election integrity, or the lack of election integrity. So, yeah, there's a problem with mailing all these ballots out, folks, and there's so much evidence of fraud and abuse of this opportunity. The Democrats have just used COVID as an excuse to foist this upon us. And it's curious that, the president got COVID-19 and he recovered very quickly, and that's very encouraging. And they refused to have an in-person debate. And then they had, the Presidential Commission wanted to have a virtual town hall. And then they wound up having, last week, President Trump had a town hall in Miami, and Vice President Biden had a town hall, I think, in Philadelphia. And there was some distance there between the candidate and moderator, and there were a few so-called independent voters in the audience, as small as the audience was in each venue, but it was still in person. And more to say on debates and how the Republican Party has just allowed candidates to have their hands tied behind their back while they're pummeled by these supposed, nonpartisan moderators. I'd like to do a video on what we as Republicans should do to fix that problem. It's a huge problem. It's part of election rigging. The candidate, the moderator for the coming up debate on Thursday of this week is, I saw an article, and I can't say that, I didn't look at the details to see if it was indeed true, but there was a headline on an article that alleged that moderator was caught feeding answers to questions or feeding questions to candidates in a prior debate or something like that. Sort of like what Donna Brazile did when she was working, I believe, for CNN during a debate with Hillary Clinton. So, these, and the nonpartisanship is a joke. So we have potentially feeding questions and nonpartisan, so-called nonpartisans being very partisan. And now I'm getting into that whole debate issue, which I really need to save for another video. But there's so much that Democrats do to just commit election rigging, election fraud. I could go on and on and on. It's so pervasive. They're so fixated on power and the next election and what they can do to seize that power, to steal elections and to manipulate not only votes, but manipulate people's minds, people's view of the world. They and their media cohorts, social media, mainstream media, they're all in the same boat together. So we have to mobilize, folks. We have to educate, mobilize, inspire, organize. We have to move as one and speak as one. And if we do these things, then we have a chance of turning our country around, saving our republic, and keeping this train from going over the cliff. We're heading at breakneck speed for the cliff. We need to take a hard, with the train, you don't take a hard right turn, but you know what I'm saying. We've got to stop this, otherwise we're going over the cliff. So, as you conduct your campaign of one, I'll do the same. I'll conduct my campaign of one. If you like these videos, subscribe to the channel, like the video, hit that bell so that you'll be notified when I publish new videos. And let's see if this video makes the cut and I actually publish this one. So there are many more videos that I've ditched than I've actually published, obviously. So, and I don't have a Mr. Editor over there to fix the problems that I create during these videos. So pray for me and wish me well, clarity of mind, give me the words to speak. That's what I pray for. So it's a matter of not just saving our country, but returning to the founding principles, the Judeo-Christian principles our nation was founded upon. So people of faith in particular have to wake up and get with it, because if we lose this election, then we may not be able to get our country back. So we all have to do our part. And thank you so much for your time and attention, and I'll try to not ramble so much the next time. See you on the next video.